Hey John, we finally have a release date for Mario Maker 2. Are you excited?
I'm very excited, man. It's like a month and a half away at this point. It's so close.
Yeah, they were really down to the wire on this. I can't remember the last time we waited this close to release for a release date for a major game. And the odd thing is too, beyond the initial trailer back in, what was that, February, we haven't seen a whole lot of this game up until very recently, but in really odd ways, because we had the release date trailer, but then we had some posters come out from Japan, which showed off quite a few new gameplay elements that we didn't know about before, including new enemies, new features, and then we finally got another trailer from Japan, which I believe was meant to celebrate Golden Week, so it was Japan exclusive, but we still covered it, of course, and that also showed off a fair amount of new stuff we didn't know about before either. But it's really just very odd how they're going about this so far. Like, we haven't had a direct announcement. We haven't had, any proper overview trailers yet. What's your takeaway from this?
It's kind of nuts. It's like usually when Nintendo show off new assets, new media, that usually means they're ready to blow out something.
Right.
And we kind of know they are because the website is ready to be updated. There's a thing on the website saying the update's coming.
Yep.
Right. So there's got to be something big coming. But the thing is, when you look at these screenshots, there's some major stuff in there that they have never talked about before. Like, for instance, Meowser. Meowser's something that I would expect to showcase the trailer. That'd be the spotlight of a trailer.
Right.
But he's right there in a Japanese flyer screenshot.
Yeah, just hanging out completely casually. It almost makes me wonder if I wonder if that banner is meant to go up then, because it feels like something that should have been revealed in a direct. And we had a bunch of other features like that too. Like, we had the claw, the claw machine grabbers. Right. Which is another major new feature. We had
the sky template, man. That's huge. That's a brand new template we saw in Mario World, and they've shown it off not only in that leaked screenshot, but also in the Golden Week trailer. We saw it in We saw it in action. There's little rainbow floors. There's little sky floors. You can get little rainbow blocks that you can put down as well. It's just this entire new theme that they've not really shown off before, but we've seen it in action twice, both in the screenshot and the trailer.
It is so weird, but I mean, it's kind of cool at the same time. I mean, it's fun to see these little features. I mean, Mario Maker is all about what each element can add to the whole, right? You add one single element and it cascades in the possibilities. So it's kind of fun that we're learning about them in this kind of slow drip way almost. Especially because it means I don't have to do another freaking 5-week long, hour and a half video on all this. But I do think you're right. I think, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think something big is coming, obviously. I think they're going to talk about this game well before E3. Well, maybe not well before, but before E3. Whether it's a Mario Maker exclusive direct or an overview trailer for it. But something's coming for this. And there's still some major features we don't know, that we don't know anything about, presumably, such as possible multiplayer, possible taller levels, and who knows what else could be in here. And that's what excites me, is not just what we know so far, which I can't wait for, but everything we don't know yet. And the hope is there's still a lot more that we don't know about.
A thing I see quite often is people say that Mario Maker is a known entity, and I don't think that's true. There's a lot we don't know about this game. We don't even know how the online sharing works.
Right.
Because in the Wii U game, you could share your levels, obviously. But to actually search for them, you needed to have very specific long codes that you can't just memorize.
Yeah.
So the actual searching functionality was more or less non-existent. And in the 3DS game, you couldn't search at all. So there's definitely stuff to know, right? You also got to assume that not everyone who knows about Mario Maker has seen our analysis. We've gone very in-depth into this. We know a lot of stuff that they haven't necessarily shown off in detail. But really, the gist of it is they've shown maybe 4 minutes of this game in total. And for most people, that stuff just goes by. It just kind of looks like another Mario Maker, but there is a lot of stuff in this game, a lot of new elements, and they need to kind of show those off in proper detail.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think you're kind of right that some people are just accepting Mario Maker 2 as an updated Mario Maker, which, I mean, it's always a matter of semantics. I mean, obviously, it is in some way, but I do believe this is a full proper sequel, and also to lend credence to that, although Nintendo is biased, in their press release they did say it's a full featured, or I think the words that they used were a full featured sequel or full-fledged sequel, something along those lines, which I think suggests to me that there's even more beyond what we, considerably more beyond what we've already seen.
Do you know what gets me excited at the prospect of this being a sequel? It's the Mario 3D World style is brand new. And in both the Wii U game and the 3DS game, they both came with some Nintendo-developed levels. And the 3DS game took that even further. So what we're basically getting with Mario Maker 2 is we're getting a brand new 2D style with 3D World, And then Nintendo gonna make some levels with that, presumably. So they did with the other games. So we're basically getting brand new Nintendo developed levels in a brand new 2D Mario game within a Mario Maker. So just that aspect on its own, I think that's pretty exciting.
That's a great point, especially because with the addition of the 3D world style now in a side-scrolling 2D gameplay sense, that's effectively a new game. This type of game has not existed before. So we will be getting entirely new levels, presumably from Nintendo, that takes advantage of those elements, and I can't wait to see what they come up with. Anyways, the reason we're doing this discussion is because, one, there has been quite a few new elements I thought we could touch on. We already have to some degree. But also, we've never had a full, proper Mario Maker discussion, John. And that saddens me. Because I love talking about things I'm excited for. And I think everyone knows out there, I was a huge Mario Maker fan. I spent dozens and dozens of hours on on almost every stage I created. So hundreds of hours in total. Like, I spent over 600 hours, maybe 800, going by the Wii U counter. So the fact that I think what threw everything off was with me spending 4 or 5 weeks on, or however many weeks it was on the analysis, we just never got around to a proper discussion. So I want to fix this right now. I want to go over everything, maybe not quite as granular as we would have otherwise, but I want to go over the game as a whole. So what are your overall thoughts going into Mario Maker 2, and what was your experience with Mario Maker 1?
Well, I haven't spent 800 hours with Mario Maker 1, but
no one has. Probably not even Nintendo's developers.
I maybe spent, I think I was like in the 90 range maybe, so I spent quite a while with it, but nowhere near as much as you. But I typically like level creators, but I don't tend to spend much time with them. Like with the Smash Stage Builder, I appreciate what it can do, but I'm not the creative type. So like when it comes to like Little Big Planet and Smash Stage Builder, I tend to just play other people's levels. But with Mario Maker, they kind of made it so accessible that just making was part of the fun. And I appreciate good level design, and I think when you sort of look at how other games construct their levels and take that and put it into Mario Maker, I think you can make some really great stuff. So I actually do find myself enjoying making in Mario Maker, which is quite big, because I don't typically enjoy doing that kind of stuff. But that said, most of my Mario Maker time was made just playing other people's levels, and some people made some crazy stuff. And like Mario Maker 2 looks crazy with how many new features it has. And looking back at it, Mario Maker 1 was a little limited, because there weren't slopes. I know that sounds silly, but slopes are a big thing. And it was like every style was kind of limited to how Mario 1 worked, because everything was just flat. There was no real, levels never really felt organic because of that. But people still managed to make some really impressive stuff with those limitations. So yeah, I love Mario Maker 1, and I'm really excited for Mario Maker 2. And just the more I see, the more it feels like Nintendo just trying to shove everything they can into this game.
It really does seem that way. Like, yeah, the kitchen sink and everything else. And that's what has me excited, because as I said earlier, like, you add a single attribute and the amount of possibilities just, is exponential beyond that point. And they're adding not just one new thing, John. They're adding a lot of new things here. So when I saw that, I rewatched the initial reveal trailer in preparation to this discussion, and I forgot just how good it is. Like, it starts off pretty... Well, first off, it starts off with a bang with the slopes, but otherwise the game looks very conventional. But then they just keep hitting you with more and more and more. And if you're not too familiar with Mario Maker, I can see why, it may look... It's like, oh, that's just Mario Maker, but... Again, based on our hour-and-a-half video, clearly that's not telling the full story here. There is so much new stuff they added in there, whether it's new level themes, or apparently now being able to change the liquid you're working with on a level, or hell, even being able to add liquid to a level beyond the underwater theme, which is exciting in its own right. And that reminds me of my first question to you, John, is, of course, a big part of the original Mario Maker is being able to mix and match objects across different, Mario game styles and level themes. However, as I pointed out in the analysis, pretty much every object we see that's new to Mario Maker 2, we only ever see in the game style it came from. And it was especially the case of Super Mario 3D World. So what do you think this means? Do you think that the elements might be more restrictive this time, or do you think Nintendo's just holding out on us and we'll be able to mix and match to whatever extent we want?
I think it makes the most sense for them to do that. Because Mario Maker is a game about mixing and matching. So it's a game about taking elements that never really existed in those games and bringing them up to date.
Right.
So like Super Mario Brothers has wigglers and all these other sort of enemies that didn't exist in that game. But there were limitations. Like, Yoshi didn't exist in Super Mario Brothers, and he still doesn't in Mario Maker.
Right.
So maybe there are areas where they won't make everything cross-compatible, but I think they'll at least find some kind of equivalent, like they did with the previous game. But it's an exciting prospect, and part of the reason Mario Maker is so big is because each game in here is one of the best platformers ever. Like we give Mario U a hard time, but the platforming mechanics in that game are really good. And some of my favorite Mario Maker levels were in the Mario U style. So that's just why it works, and the whole point of the game is experimenting and taking things that wouldn't usually be there and putting them in there.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense for Mario 3D World assets to be in every single different game. It's just that there is room for doubt though, because we haven't really seen it all in action.
We haven't seen a lot.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the first thing we saw that kind of hinted toward this possibility was in the image they added to the Mario Maker website saying coming soon. They actually showcase a Wiggler in the 3D World style, and Wiggler never appeared in 3D World, John. So I am leaning toward the idea, as you are, that this means most objects will be cross-compatible. I'm hoping everything is. Like, I hope they actually go back to Yoshi and fix that, because Yoshi should be in every style, especially because there was actually there's early concept art of Yoshi, I believe, in the NES style. Like, I think in the original Super Mario Brothers style.
Yeah,
right?
Right, yeah. I'd love that.
And they could separate the Goomba shoe from Yoshi, like they have with some of the other characters already in the game. I forget who off the top of my head. I think maybe the Hammer Brothers or something. They've already divorced, or the Monty Moles. The Monty Moles and the Rocky Wrenches. They're now two separate enemies. They could do that for the Goomba shoe and Yoshi and make them separate objects. Maybe the Goomba shoe becomes the car in the 3D World style, for instance. Which, by the way, I want to know more about that. That car I'm excited for. Especially because 3D World already had those Mario Kart style themed levels where you weren't in a car, but you were effectively racing along thanks to the boost pads and had the Mario Kart music and the Mario Kart style. So I would love if they brought back either the music and perhaps some of the theming. Maybe what if there's a Mario Kart style or a Mario Kart theme level or a level theme?
That'd be so cool.
They could bring back elements from Super Mario Kart to the 16-bit version.
Mario Kart Maker, that's what we need next.
Exactly.
But like, remember, the first Mario Maker actually did have a car sprite because the Mercedes.
Oh my god!
Mercedes DLC was a costume for Mario 1.
It's all been building up to this moment.
Yeah.
So, what feature has you most excited yourself?
Well, it's a feature they haven't actually shown properly, and that's it's on the renders. So the big render for the game basically shows Mario and Luigi building together, and on there's pictures of Toadette, there's pictures of Toad, there's pictures of Mario and Luigi in cat costumes. So clearly, this game has multiple characters and probably multiplayer.
Right.
And actually, in the most recent screenshot, we saw one of the hands has a red outline, which probably means that's Mario's hand, and maybe there's a green Luigi hand somewhere. But obviously we can't say for sure that yet. But without a doubt, there are other characters playable in this game. And that's not only going to make it just more fun to play with people, it's going to change how people make their levels. Because some of my favorite Mario Maker levels were puzzle-focused, and sort of like solving puzzles with a friend that are like made to be solved with a friend. That's just going to open up a lot of different avenues for level creation.
Well, I mean, that's the hope, right? There's two different routes they could go with this. They could go the new Super Mario Bros. U route, where the characters are largely identical, or they could go the 3D World route, where they do have unique properties, like, Princess Peach being able to float, although she doesn't appear to be in this game. But Luigi could jump higher, Toad might be faster, for instance. But now as I recall, John, neither the Toad or Toadette wasn't in 3D World. She was in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, though. So it's making me a little bit concerned that maybe they're going to go that route with them, and they're all identical, and they're solely there for multiplayer purpose, which, granted, would be exciting in its own right. But I hope they go all in on it. I want them to play separately, or I want them to play distinctly, while also being available in multiplayer.
Yeah, I never really considered them being playable in other styles, actually, because they've only really shown them in the 3D World style. But I guess that means we'll probably have, playable Toads in the Super Mario Brothers style, in the Mario World style. And if you remember, I think it's Super Mario World on the Game Boy Advance, they gave Luigi his own little floaty physics. So if they allowed that there, that'd be really cool.
It would be. What would be especially cool is if you can make stages where You leave it up to the player to choose whatever character you want, or whichever characters you allow them to play as. So there could be like a Mario 2 style selection screen before you go into the stage, where they can choose among whichever characters you said they can. So do you think there's a chance there's even more characters, or are these 4 it?
I would love there to be. I guess the inclusion of Toadette probably means that Peachette might be in the Mario U style. So if you count that as a different character, she might be in there. But yeah, there's one jarring omission, right? And that's Peach.
Yeah.
Because 3D World, she was playable. And there's no sign of her being playable yet. So I would imagine she is. But I think one thing that would send fans wild is if Wario and Waluigi were finally playable in a Mario platform.
Oh my god, could you imagine? That would be huge.
And you know, one of my favorite things about the Mario 1 style was all those amiibo costumes.
Yes!
But they were limited to Mario 1 though. And that's the thing, like, you could make levels themed around Zelda in Mario 1 because there's a Zelda costume. Right. But when you stretch to other games, all of a sudden I think you become a bit more limited. Like, if you try and make a Zelda themed level in the Mario U style, I don't think it works so well. But maybe, instead of having amiibo costumes, what if they had other playable characters? Like, what if you make Link an actual playable character in all these styles and have him as like an amiibo DLC costume? Just the actual character rather than a costume.
Don't know if they're going to go that far, but I really do hope I really wish they would. But with that said, even if they just had these 4 characters, that still does open up the possibilities for different theming. Like, you know, having Luigi, I don't know, on a search for Mario, even if you can't put Mario himself into the stage. But you know, you can play around with that a little bit more, because I'm right there with you. I really like the Mii costumes for that reason, because it could enhance the story or the theming you wanted to tell. And I know it sounds a little bit silly to talk about story within the context of a Mario level, but it actually was an element. You actually could create these, like, you know, these small little narratives, even more in depth if you use the Miiverse bubbles to add actual text to your stage.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I really do hope that they go a little bit farther with that, with, you know, you being able to either choose a character you play as or adding even, you know, more characters beyond what we've seen, because that would be really fun if you could go the distance. Now, do you think, real quick, do you think the amiibo costumes are going to return here? Because there was a little taste of it, a little hint of that in the poster where we saw the classic Mario sprite, the big version of the Mario sprite, which in the original game you could only access via amiibo.
Yeah, there's a hint of it, right? But it's a bit different. So in that screenshot, we have the giant Mario, but the way it worked in Mario Maker 1 is when you scanned it in, you got like a little CRT filter, and all the enemies were given little Mario moustaches. But there's no sign of that in Mario Maker 2. So I wonder, could that just be a Mega Mushroom? Or is that actually an amiibo costume?
It'd be nice if they gave us more options out of the gate without requiring amiibo. So maybe it is a new mushroom feature. I don't know. But that does remind me of one feature. Specifically, I'm reminded of the skinny mushroom, which turned NES Mario into this weird, lanky version of him. And it was completely out of place and not at the same time. Like, I loved it. And that's something I hope they retain here, is Mario Maker at times could be really weird. It was a weird game. So that's something that we haven't seen a whole lot of yet, and I hope they keep that. I love those weird elements that just made the game feel bizarre.
Yeah, I love that too. There's actually one point that gave me a little bit of worry during the most recent Golden Week trailer. And that's, in the 3D World section, they showed the sound effects again. But it's the exact same sound effects from the first game. There's like, I don't know, there's like 5 or 6 different ones, and none of them are new.
Right.
So I imagine there are going to be new ones. It's just a bit worrying that every single one they showed is not new.
Yeah, that seems like that's such a low-key feature too. Like, why not show off 1 or 2 new ones, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you. I hope they add more. I think they will. Because those little enhancements go a long way, too, in contributing to the feeling you want to add to a stage. Whether it's like a little celebration, or if you want to add an ominous feel to a ghost house, it really did help. So I hope they add at least twice as many, because they're just fun to work with. Like, I love, like, any of those, like, details we can add that enhance the story or the theme we want to tell really does help. Including the background tiles, like how you could use the semi-solid platforms as almost background elements, and that's something I really hope that they enhance or add to this game, whether by having more or giving us a better way to work with them, because it could be a little bit janky in the original game, where if you start layering too many on top of each other, the first one you added would just disappear, and it could totally screw up your stage. Now that we've had the new Smash Bros. Stage Builder, though, even though I'm not a huge fan of it overall, one feature I do love is its specific background layer feature. We can add stuff to the background, and I would kill if they gave us that same ability here.
That'd be so cool. And you know what? I was just thinking about Mario Paint as well. There's one huge big feature that I would love to be in Mario Maker 2. And that is a music editor.
Oh!
A music editor, man. Because people actually made their own music in Mario Maker 1 somehow. They had Koopas going at different heights and distances and speeds and lengths, and they somehow made music out of that. And just bring that editor back and allow people to make their own background music. That'd be amazing. I mean, I would suck at it, but other people could do some great stuff.
I would too, straight up, but what could be amazing is if they let you share those too, completely independently of the stages. Have like a whole like music section where you can download other people's songs, add them to your own stage.
And they could even do, like, you know, they did those little challenges to get amiibo costumes or like any other costume. They could do like Nintendo themed music stages. We have to like beat their stage and then you unlock the song or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually hope that they give us more music. I mean, if not music creator, which I hope is there, I hope we have more options for the music. Because right now, the music is stuck to whatever level theme and game style you chose. And while it worked, you know, it'd be fun if we had a little bit more experimentation. Give us more room to further diversify the music. Well, to circle back to the characters real quick, there was something else I saw somewhat interesting recently involving Toadette, where there's some new artwork revealed of her where she's holding what appear to be Toadette boxes. And what does that mean? Are they boxes only she can break? Does a Toadette mushroom pop out that turns you into Toadette? Like, what's going on there?
That's what I thought too. It reminds me of Mario 64 DS, where you can like find those little... You can find like another character's hat and become that character.
Right.
So I wonder if it's that. But I guess it could also be like an incentive to go back to levels and replay them as other characters. Like 3D World did, actually. 3D World had those very specific character blocks that only certain characters could actually break.
Right.
But I don't know if Mario Maker has that same incentive, though.
It might though in multiplayer, maybe. If only a specific player can break through those blocks, you would have to work together then. More so.
Yeah, maybe. For sure, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways we can go with some of these elements that we don't fully understand yet. Like the on and off blocks. Which we've seen right now, and maybe we have seen all that they can do, at least in a limited sense, in that they turn on and turn off different sets of blocks. And by itself, that's a really exciting feature, because that really does open up the possibilities for what you can do in getting different objects to interact with each other. Because one big feature, like one big thing I had to do originally in some of my stages, was I had to sync objects to the P-switch, and I would use that to activate certain stage elements. But now this will make it a lot easier, and I wonder if there might be further functionality to that switch, like we saw in Mario World, where in that case you could use it to cause a ceiling to stop lowering and have it go back up. I don't think that specific functionality will be here, but I wonder if there's more to it, where you can sync it up to different elements and have it activate those.
And that'll make the puzzle levels even more exciting too.
Right.
But the first thing I'm going to do is remake those U versus Boo levels from Mario Deluxe.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, especially if, like, one of my hopes is, like, as I mentioned in the analysis, what if this does mark a return of, like, a proper true multiplayer mode, possibly a race mode, because those blocks are identical, basically, to how they function in that mode, and it'd be so fun if you could race through these stages together against a friend.
It'd be really cool as well is when you search for levels, you have multiple different like sections. You have like levels you play on your own, levels made for multiplayer, and maybe even competitive levels. Like you can race against other ghosts or something, or even race against your friends or whatever else.
Yep, absolutely. Well, while we're talking about online real quick, there's a few things about related to the online I want to talk about. And one is they have to improve the discovery feature. Like, it was not great in the original, and it was god-awful on the 3DS, because it pretty much removed it entirely. So, I'm trying to think of what can they do to improve the ability to find good levels. And right off the bat, I think, is have a editor section. Have Nintendo go through, find cool levels made by the community, and spotlight them. Why not, I think that'd be really neat to see levels that Nintendo endorses. Like, hey, we play this level. As the creators of the Mario games, we think this is a level you should play. So I think that'd be one good feature. Two, on a smaller scale, let us add filters to levels. Like, let us categorize our own level however we want, like as a puzzle level, for instance, and then let people specifically choose or look for those levels, as you were saying, so they can find the type of levels that they want to play. Or if you want a specific character, maybe like, hey, I only want Toadette levels for God knows whatever reason. There you go.
Yeah, and like even more basic than that, keywords. Like Smash's Stage Builder does it. Let us just search for any word we want, or even just any creator we want. Like if I just want to search in Andre Seegers and find all your levels, that'd be so simple. And especially when, like, if we're streaming Mario Maker, and people have all these level suggestions, it's so tough to go back through the chat, find a very specific code, just type it all in. It's too cumbersome, and there's a much simpler way to do it.
The keyword thing has to happen. I am in full agreement there. It sucked seeing like a cool, like, say, Zelda level, and the creator or the person streaming it or however you saw it, there's an image of it, and there's no way to find it. Whereas if you just typed in Zelda, there's a chance you may come across it, or if you know the full name, of course, and that would only further help. You did remind me of another thing I hope that they do, though, because while having a keyword search is essential, I think it'd be neat too is if there were like a streamer mode, where if you activate it, it constantly displays the level's ID code at all times as you're playing it, or any information you want from the creator, whether their name or the proper or the stage's proper title. I think it'd just be useful to have it to surface that information so people watching can just easily find it themselves.
Yeah, that's really clever. And Mario Maker is a game about sharing, and obviously a big part of modern sharing is streaming. And I think Nintendo know that. And I think a big reason of why they haven't really blown it out is because they want other people to do it for them. Because you can't really advertise a game about sharing and making levels if you're the one sharing all those levels. I think other people have to do it. So yeah, I think that would be really smart to have something like that.
Yeah, that would be. Now here's another question about the online. How do you think it's going to work in terms of the subscription service? Because it seems like right now it's going to require to some degree, because apparently if you pre-order it, I believe, in some territories, you'll get, I think, what was it, 2 months free of the
you get a full year.
A full year.
In the UK.
All right.
Full year, yeah.
So that's pretty good if you pre-order the game. But if you don't pre-order the game, that might kind of suck if you don't already have the online service, because that's effectively increasing the cost of the game. Because assuming it's because pretty much everything in this game that you want to do, it requires online. Yeah, you can make stages without it, but what's the point if you can't share those? And if you want to play other people's stages, you're going to have to download them as well over the online service. So if that's your requirement, assuming you play the game for a year, that's effectively turning a $60 game into an $80 game. So what are your thoughts on that, John? Do you think there'll be any room here for Nintendo to offer you some level of playability without requiring Switch Online, or is it mandatory, effectively?
I think flat out no. I think flat out they're going to make you subscribe to online. I think this is one of the biggest games to push online, honestly. Like they have Smash, they have Mario Kart, they have Splatoon, and I think Mario Maker is the next pillar in there. I guess Animal Crossing. But yeah, I think they need more games to push online. And Mario Maker is almost entirely existing in its online realm. Like, you can play it locally, but just like in the 3DS game, there's nothing you can do with those levels, and the game ends up basically being redundant.
That's what makes it awkward, because this is the first Nintendo game that really fully requires online. Even Animal Crossing, as far as we know, won't go to that extent, because that series has historically been completely playable, if not entirely focused, on the solo experience, playing largely by yourself. As we discovered in Mario Maker, that's definitely not the case, so that is going to be kind of interesting. I wonder if there'll be like any level of blowback from that. Even if I think Nintendo Switch Online isn't, unfairly priced, the fact that there might be parents out there buying this game unaware of the fact that, yeah, you need to pay a little bit more if you want to get the full experience, or rather, get the experience.
I think that might be why they're doing these bundles, because it's not a bad bundle. I think you pay like £50, £60, and that's not much more than a regular Switch game, and you're getting a full year subscription with that, which is great. I don't think they're actually doing it in America. At least they haven't confirmed it yet, but in Japan and the UK they have. And I think that's fairly reasonable. And Switch Online as it isn't too expensive. Obviously, it's still a price. It's still an add-on to that. And you're right, it will basically be an $80 game. But I honestly think that it's kind of smart to have more games that push the service. Especially if they can justify the online. Like, if they can make it better and make you appreciate it a bit more, then I don't really see a problem.
let's go. I want to talk a little bit more about other features we're excited about, or what we're looking forward to, or other areas that they could flesh out beyond what we already know. So I want to move over to level themes real quick. Where because we know about quite a few more now. We know, of course, about the desert theme. We know about jungle. We know about what appears to be a night theme, or maybe a space theme, going by the latest picture where Mario is in a really weird position. We have the now confirmed sky theme. How are you feeling about these? Because they've effectively, I think they've doubled, if not more than doubled, the original amount in the original game.
Yeah, there's a ton, and the original game already had a pretty nice array of themes.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that we haven't seen what Mario World's airship theme looks like.
Right.
I know the airship theme is in the game because we saw it in Mario 1 in the first trailer, but the sky theme and the airship theme have the exact same cloud background. Like, the pattern is identical, which I don't think they would do. I don't think you can switch between two different themes and have the exact same background, especially if there's no assets on there, because then you don't see any visible change.
Yeah.
So I think the best assumption there is they've probably redesigned the airship theme. So it's going to be cool to see what that looks like as well for Mario World. And I'm kind of hoping they go for like a darker thing. Like kind of like how Mario All-Stars in the Mario 3 variant had like these dark and like stormy clouds. I'd love to see that for Mario World.
I'm right there with you. I think either looking to Mario All-Stars for inspiration, or even World 8 Mario World, where you're in the underground section. And in fact, leading up to that, there even was a crashed airship, or a sunken ship, I guess, underwater, which maybe they could also pull some inspiration from. But yeah, I want them to go darker with this. So I think it could be fun to see a new style in using Mario World as a base. That's not something we've seen yet. We've seen it in other games styles, like there was a Mario Brothers, which you also saw more recently with the forest theme, which has been retroactively added to that game. And it's so fun to see, like, how they update these elements in a retro type way.
Yeah, and you know what? There's actually one theme I want to see now. So we've basically got all the bases covered, right? There's lava worlds, there's grass worlds, there's snow worlds, there's everything else. Yeah, skies. So what I want to see now is something based not necessarily based off New Donk City, but I want to see a city theme. I want to have like an industrial background, and
oh, man.
I guess what I want is something kind of inspired like Donkey Kong, like the Game Boy Donkey Kong. Something that isn't necessarily from a Mario game specifically, but something that's brand new. Kind of like how 3D World has never been in 2D before. Just something that's never really been done before that feels new in Mario Maker.
I mean, that'd be cool, but I feel like if they went that route, New Donk City would be the obvious way of fitting it in there. It would.
Yeah, for sure.
And that stage was all about like celebrating Mario and Donkey Kong's history, right? So it would kind of make sense for them to run the spectrum of all these Mario styles.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they go our route of like having more music in the game, get like the New Donk City Festival music in there, build a New Donk City level.
Oh my god! Well, they already had that kind of like the retro version, that retro take on it too in Mario Odyssey.
Right? Yeah.
Well, actually, here's a question: do you think we'll get any more game styles? Obviously, we had the 4 original from the 4 from the original game. We also have 3D World now. Do you think there's a chance there's any more?
There's a chance. There's always a chance they can update the game too. Like even after it releases, maybe they'll add a new style later on. But I kind of feel like what we have is it.
Yeah.
They're adding a lot of new stuff to the older games. 3D World in its own is quite a... That's a new Mario game pretty much. I mean, obviously it's based off another one, but it's never existed in this format. They've basically made a new Mario game for this. Right. So, I mean, as great as Mario 2 would be, I don't think so. Not for launch.
I definitely don't see another 3D World style, another 3D game style, just because it gets complicated adding, making new models for every one of these. Plus, the 3D games, for the most part, are very distinct from the 2D ones, and Mario 3D World is kind of the exception, along with Land, where they're effectively 2D games in the 3D space. They share a lot of the same mechanics and general style, so that made sense to incorporate it into Mario Maker. However, it still bugs me a little bit. The Mario Brothers 2 isn't here, John. It deserves to be. Especially in a game that has 2 in the name. Maybe they're hiding it. I don't think they are, because I think 3D World is the big hook here. But it would be amazing if maybe that were like a DLC pack, as you were kind of touching on. That would be such a great way to extend the replayability of this game. Because the original Mario Maker already had some of that, where they added like elements from, they added singular new objects or new versions of existing objects. But it would be really neat if they went farther this time and give us a whole new game style, or maybe level theme, for instance, and just give us like a whole new ton of stuff to play with all at once.
Right, they added doors. Doors are from Mario 2.
Yeah, they are! Doors are from Mario 2, but Bombs had their start there. And, come on, Wart deserves a second chance. And as cool as it is that he presumably is coming back in Link's Awakening, it feels, the remake, it feels a little bit wrong that he's not first coming back in a Mario game. And this could be how you fix it.
Yeah, I suppose the only problem is Mario 2 does play quite differently. But that's never really stopped it before, though. Like, for instance, every Mario game in Mario Maker has a different power-up. Right. So, like, there's the Tanuki Tail for Mario 3 or the Cape for Mario World. And sometimes levels are made around those power-ups. And that never really stopped it. Like, obviously you can change between them and those levels don't really work anymore. But, I don't see why that can't be the case for Mario 2 as well. Though, I guess if they were to add another Mario game, I would think it might even be Mario Land 2. Like, 2 reasons. First, it's the Game Boy's 30th anniversary this year. And secondly, I think Mario Land 2 is the only real, like, other traditional 2D Mario game that you can really put in here. Because Mario Land 1, I don't think is that great to play these days.
It's not. And it's visually, pretty similar to the NES version. It has distinct levels, granted, but Mario Land 2 would be the one. I think they would go the route they have with 3D World and New Super Mario Bros. U, effectively acting as the entire representation of that series, right? And Mario Land 2 would represent the Game Boy series.
Yeah.
And that would, adding Mario Land 2 would be a perfect fit if that is in fact a space theme, John.
That we
saw. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because on the one hand, it looks a little bit space-like. On the other, it doesn't look that space-like. But Mario's pose is very odd, and it's something that you couldn't actually replicate in the original Mario Maker, as far as I know. Besides when swimming, or something similar when swimming. Yet there clearly is no water in that scene.
Right. I guess we can't overlook the fact that someone may have just photoshopped him in there.
True.
I don't think they would
possible.
have. Yeah. I don't think they would have, but it's possible. But it's interesting if they have done that. Because we actually can't even confirm it, because the last time we saw that theme in the debut trailer, everything has wings on, so we can't tell if gravity is working differently or not.
Right, and Mario's flying around in the Koopa Clown car, so it's very suspicious. I guess the only or 2 arguments I can think of against it are, one, there is liquid in both of them, but that is sticking to the bottom of the level, and 2, we still see lava bubbles like jumping up and down, I think, right? Or presumably jumping up and down.
We do, yeah. Well, actually, in the latest screenshot, we see a lava bubble in a clown car, I believe. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think if they somehow did add a space theme, that would be a lot of fun. It'd give you a whole different set of properties to work with, like with lower gravity, and it would really transform like how you play him. Whether or not the exact amount of gravity is up to you, although that would be really cool. However, if there is lower gravity, that leads to my next point: taller levels.
Yes.
So we've seen evidence, or we've seen hints at this, as I laid out in the initial analysis, but we have seen no actual solid evidence. We've only seen like potential pointers at it, like everything's pointing in that direction, pointing up, literally in the case of the second scene of the first trailer, but we haven't seen like concrete proof. So John, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Are we getting taller levels in this game?
Yes we are. So
right. I like your style.
In our most recent analysis, there was a point where in the Mario World Sky theme, Mario gets to the top of the level and stops scrolling. He does a big jump, level doesn't get any higher. And we recreated this in the original Mario Maker, and it plays by the same rules. And what I suggested is maybe there'll be a landscape and portrait theme. And there's a comment in there, and apparently, in the Mario World ROM, when you use like editors for that, that's exactly how it works. So basically, in Mario World, levels are made vertically and horizontally. So horizontal ones can only go like 2 screens tall, and vertical ones can only go 2 screens wide. And that's how it works. That's the rules of Mario World. So I think, what if they had that here? What if when you start making a level, it says, do you want to build it landscape or do you want to build it portrait?
Right.
So that way, like, you'd either have wide levels or tall levels. So
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going to do.
That makes a ton of sense to me, and that's exactly what I wanted in one of my initial Mario Maker DLC videos. Where I'm like, hey, just take the existing stage, flip it 90 degrees, and there you go. Because it makes sense to have the same amount of area to work with.
Yeah. And we've seen instances where like there's like multiple vertical scrolling levels they've shown off, and they don't make sense. Like if they're playing by the rules of Mario Maker 1, they don't make sense.
Right.
Like there's that instance where they're scrolling up in, I think it's in a haunted house.
Ghost house, yeah.
In a ghost house, yeah. And the screen can't get any higher. There's nowhere else for it to go. It's got to keep scrolling. And if like, what's the point of having a vertical scrolling level if you can only go 2 screens high?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't get you very far. And then what happens? And what would happen to the screen at that point? Would it go back down? Would it start moving horizontally? Even though we saw walls in that scene, so there's nowhere to go there either. Yeah. So I think Nintendo is kind of like playing, with the idea that we can do tall levels. They just haven't explicitly confirmed it. And I can't wait until they do, because that really would change the type of levels you can create, particularly now that slopes are a thing. You could use those to go all the way up. Like, it's just going to be a lot of fun to just play with this entire new arrangement. Although I am curious how exactly flagpoles are going to work. I guess it would still work largely as they do now. But I guess here's another point I want, John. I want us to be able to move the start point and end point wherever we want. I don't know if they're going to yet, although they did drop the scroll bar at the bottom of the screen. So it's making me wonder, maybe we can move the start and end points wherever we want. Like if y'all want to start at the beginning, in the middle of the level, why not? Let us do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've also seen evidence of maybe levels having a criteria before finishing them. There's like a coin counter. There's a part where it says like you got like 0 out of 50 coins or whatever like that. So what if flagpoles aren't the only ways of finishing levels now? Like what if you find all the coins and that's how you finish the level? Or like what if like you could put stars in there, like Mario 64 style stars, and just have them anywhere? It doesn't have to be at a certain point. You can just have them anywhere in that level, and that's the objective.
Yeah, that coin counter is actually one of the features I'm most excited for, because it really, if it is what we speculate it might be, where it's like a goal, whether, I mean, I'm not quite sure how it would work. Maybe the flag doesn't appear until you reach that goal, or it allows you to unlock it, who knows. But I really hope it is a new objective, because that would also transform the types of stages you can create. You could so like in the original Mario Maker, once they added the red coins, that also kind of changed how we could make stages where I created a Wind Waker stage where you went temple to temple, collecting pieces of the Triforce, which were red coins, and I gave you a key to unlock a door. But this will be really the next level, where you can really transform the objective of the stage, where you can make it it reminds me a little bit like some of the challenge stages from New Super Mario Bros. 2, where there's just coins everywhere, and you're trying to reach like I think a set amount to get to the cannon at the end. I can't remember how it worked exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be really fun if you could do that type of stage. And as part of that, I hope they go even farther, add leaderboards to these stages where it tracks your coin count and lets you see how you did compared to other people. But anyways, yeah, sorry, I'm straying from my point. I hope that that's a new objective counter, and that beyond collecting coins, they can maybe make it so you're defeating enemies as well. Like, hey, kill all the enemies before you can beat the stage.
I would love that. Yeah. Actually, speaking of flagpoles, I have one more idea.
Oh.
So in the 3D World style, I would love for them to let the flagpole run away from you. There's one level in 3D World where you finish level almost straight away, and the flagpole it sprouts wings and starts flying. Let's put wings on flagpoles. That'd be so cool.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. So, and that would mean that the flagpole would have to be a free roaming element, right? You can put wherever you want. Yeah. God, and there's also some precedent for that in the 2D games, at least in New Super Mario Bros. U, because when you're chasing Nabbit, that's effectively what that is. So This could totally work. Just have a race against a flagpole. Maybe what if you combine that with a U versus Boo style multiplayer where you're both racing for the flagpole?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh man. You do it.
Yep,
Make
absolutely.
Them do it.
So, real quick, actually, speaking of multiplayer, what are your? I guess we touched on it a little bit earlier, but what are your hopes for the multiplayer? Because we've seen hints. We've seen hints now, as you kind of touched on earlier, with maybe there being like a cooperative co-op element with you having a red cursor, whereas presumably a second player might have a green cursor. Because in the artwork for the game too, we see both Mario and Luigi placing elements into the level. So, do you think there could be like co-op creation or some kind of cooperation element involving the actual creation process?
I do, but it's hard to say how exactly it's going to work.
Right, yeah.
Because if you're gonna have, like, two cursors on screen at the same time, you're gonna be fumbling over each other
It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. So unless you have, like, two different switches, that's gonna be, as you say, a bit of a mess. So I guess you could have, like, turn-based placement, so, like, one of you places a block, and then it's the other person's turn. But, yeah, I just don't see how that's really gonna work if you're both just moving at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I hope that it's actually a specific mode built with this in mind, where it's maybe a competitive type thing, or I don't know, something a little bit goofier. Like, you're not actually working to create a stage to share online, but you're doing something together where you're going to play through it competitively, maybe. Like, I'm reminded of Ultimate Chicken Horse, when you take turns laying out stage elements, see whoever can get through this monster's creation. So I'm hoping that's something, I hope that's what Mario, or what Nintendo's doing here, where they're just kind of like offering a new way of playing this game, like a new reason to create stages.
Yeah, I would love that. My fiance didn't really play Mario Maker much, but when she did, it would just be to make, like, horrible levels for me. So to make that into, like, an actual mode, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really fun, I think. So I really am hoping that that it has that element for creating stages, but also I want, again, a true, like, cooperative or quasi-cooperative competitive multiplayer along the lines of 3D World. I think that'd just be really fun if you can just casually play through these levels. I think the main issue is a lot of creators won't be creating stages meant for multiple people, which could be an issue, so...
Well, yeah, a lot of Mario Maker levels as they are, like, there's some great Mario Maker levels out there, but a lot of them are just out there to get you. A lot of them are just hard to be hard. And Mario, like 2D Mario, isn't, they have never really mastered co-op. In Mario U, it's more of a hindrance than actual help. So to imagine, like, bumping into everyone while trying to survive these horrible death traps, that doesn't sound ideal.
No, not so much, huh? Well, now that we've been talking about creating stages for a little bit, what are your thoughts so far on what we've seen on how that process itself works, like involving the user interface, and the fact that we will be using primarily a capacitive touchscreen, which doesn't come with any built-in stylus unlike the Wii U, and furthermore, if you want to see your creation on the TV or make stages using the TV, you're not going to have access to that touchscreen at all, where presumably you'll be using either the control stick or maybe motion controls involving the right Joy-Con, which we don't even know for sure are in the game. So, because Nintendo hasn't talked about this too much yet, so what are your thoughts on that?
So before we saw Mario Maker, when we were just sort of speculating about if this game was real or not, I thought that would just be a downgrade. Like losing the touchscreen to the Wii U sounds like a mess. But when we saw those wheels, that's when I realized that maybe they got it right. Maybe they got
those wheels
intuitive.
Are genius. Those wheels are how Breath of the Wild's inventory should have worked, by the way.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think they've clearly designed it around being able to play it docked. Of course, you can still play it undocked because they're selling the game with an actual stylus. So
as a pre-order,
as a pre-order, right? So it seems like you can still play it with the touchscreen like the first Mario Maker. But I think they've made it. We obviously need to see more of this. But it seems what we've seen so far. It seems pretty intuitive just to play with sticks. So it's hard to say at the moment. But I think they might have got this right.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit concerned on this. I mean, I think no matter what, I'll come to grips with it because I have to. However, after going hands-on with the stage builder in Smash Bros. Ultimate, man, that really made me a little bit concerned because I did not like using the touchscreen. Like, I didn't like using my finger to draw on the stage. And yeah, we can use capacitive styluses on the screen. However, those historically have not been as accurate as a resistive type touchscreen, where that's perhaps one of its few benefits, where when it comes to styluses, those are king. So that is my concern, that creating stages may not be as enjoyable inherently, but like you said, what we've seen so far is promising. That radial menu is genius. I also love how they've at first how the icons at the top of the screen look very similar to how they worked in the original game, but they're actually completely different now, where it's based on your history of the recent objects you've used, and beyond that, as we saw and as you pointed out in your recent analysis from the recent screenshots, we can now pin our favorite objects too. So if you use something frequently, you can just pin it and keep it there, seemingly.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was making that analysis, I went back to the original Mario Maker to do some comparison shots, and it's actually a bit cumbersome to keep going back through different assets.
It is, yeah.
They're all in different sections. If you just want to use one particular asset, you gotta bring down a list, select that one, find the icon. Whereas now we can just pin them in, and that just seems like a lot simpler.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I am optimistic for the interface. Still a little bit concerned, but I think they're doing pretty much everything right so far that they can be. The only feature I wish they would add, which I don't think will be in the game, is one thing I really did like about the original game is how, because of the Wii U, you could edit directly on the screen and then test it out on the TV. Granted, you can still test it out on, in that case on the gamepad and now also on the Switch's screen, but there was something, I don't know, something I appreciate about being able to experience, as most people would, I would think, on the TV itself. So what I'm getting at is I wish we could use 2 Switches. I would literally buy a second Switch in order to edit on one and play and test it out on the other. That's not happening, but I wish it were a feature. So.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty seamless though, just like press a button and go straight in. But I know what you mean. But yeah.
and that does speak to what you were saying earlier with how well the stage creator works in Mario Maker, where it is just fundamentally, I just kind of said it, fun to use. It's fundamentally fun. It's just a very easy, very simple, and still a surprisingly deep and powerful creator. And actually, another thing they're doing here that I love compared to the original is how they're now making it easier to surface all these different attributes you can add to the characters. Whereas in the original game, it was a complete crapshoot whether you could add a power up to an enemy or shake it to give it an alternate form. Now it has a quick access menu where it looks like you just hold down on the enemy or power up or whatever, and it pops up every available option, whether it's adding wings or the new parachutes or turning a Hammer Brother into a Fire Bro, for instance. And I love that. It's gonna make it so much easier to remember and keep track of what all you can do with these characters or objects.
It will, yeah. There's one thing that I think I might miss though, is the experimentation.
True.
I mean, I guess that's something you only really experience once, and this is a game you play for hours and hours and hours. But it was always cool just to try and put wings on everything and see what would work and what wouldn't work. So yeah, I think that's a small thing I might miss.
Here's the best of both worlds, John. What they should do is they should hide those options till you discover it. Then it gets added to the quick select.
Okay, yeah, I'll go for that. On that track though, on the track of unlocking things, do you think they're gonna give us the entire toolset? Because in the original Mario Maker, if I remember correctly, they gave you a few things to start off with, like very limited sets, and then I think you had to play for a while, and then more would unlock over time.
12 days, I think, or something.
Right, something
it took
like that.
forever, and I've even made a video on how to speed up that process because it was super annoying. So yeah, for me, I'm team give it all to me, baby. I want everything from the get-go. Especially now, because granted, a lot of people didn't play Mario Maker, but a fair amount of people are coming from the original game, and they already know what those base elements do, and they're familiar with how the whole, creation process works. Just give it to us all. I don't want to mess with that whole thing, so, the whole unlocking process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And I guess they can even have tutorials in there. There's no need to use them if you don't want to, but... and really, who needs a tutorial for a Mario game? I think it's all pretty self-explanatory, right?
Actually, I think not. I think the tutorials we had in the original game, yeah, those were pretty much unnecessary. However, I would love if they went a little bit deeper with them. Give us actual, proper level design tips. Mario's, give us tips from the actual creators of these stages. Pro tips on how to make a fun stage. I think it was Game Maker's Toolkit that actually had a great video on this, where in the original game, he showed you how to create a proper Mario-style level, where you introduce an element, then you elaborate upon it, a couple of times throughout the stage, where it builds up into a more difficult version. I think you even had a, you may have even done a similar type video, John.
Yeah, there's a few under the Super Scope kind of like that. We did it with Crash actually. We recreated their bridge level, which is basically just a bunch of floating blocks.
Right.
And when you see it out like that, it's kind of like you realise how simple it is. But I'd love for them to have some of their top developers almost do little talk-throughs of how they make their levels. It's get Miyamoto basically to record a demo of himself making a level in Mario Maker.
Right.
And explain why he's doing what he's doing. Get Koizumi, get a bunch of big developers.
Oh my god. Yeah, basically commentary tracks.
Yeah.
That would be great. They could even do that for the stages that they're already adding to the game. The ones that we'll be playing through.
Right. Yeah, that'd be so cool.
That'd be neat. So what other elements are you excited for, John? We've been all over the place, but there's still a lot that we haven't touched on. We don't need to touch on all of it, of course. But are there any other elements that you're looking forward to specifically?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot in there, right?
Yeah, there is.
I think there's always more I want though. On the talk of gravity earlier, one thing I'd actually really want in there is those gravity like switches from Mario Galaxy, where like you can walk on the walls with this little arrows pointing to the ceiling.
Oh my god! If that were a thing, you know, if the space theme is an actual theme, I could almost see that.
That'd be great.
Holy
and we had that in Odyssey as well.
We did in the 2D segments.
Exactly, yeah. So it kind of works in there. It's kind of worked before.
Yeah. What if you actually have like little planetoid things you can orbit around? I'm going nuts now with these ideas, or I think we are rather. That would be so fun. Like I can actually see the trailer for this now. Like where our jaws just drop, seeing what you can do with these ideas. So I'm on board, man. Give it to me. That'd be fun.
Yeah, everything about this game though, it feels like they're throwing everything that Mario's really ever done in 2D into this game. Yeah. So I don't even think that's kind of out there. I think they could do that.
I think they could too. I think I'm right there with you. Or if not, definitely in Mario Maker 3. That seems like a prime thing to bring in. Also, here's a small little thing I want them to actually fix from the first Mario Maker. I want them to fix Bowser's sprite in the Mario World style. He looks nothing like it in the Mario World. Nothing like it. I don't know how they screwed it up. I've seen better fan creations out there of how he should look in the game, and I don't know why Nintendo dropped the ball.
Yeah, I understand they needed a new sprite, because obviously he doesn't have a full sprite in Mario World. There's like half a little... He's in his clown car. Yep. But he still looks nothing like his sprite in that game. Close. Yeah. No, not even close.
Something else I want them to, like, you talk about minor tweaks now. I want them to make it so you can, for one, select more objects, like far more than we could in the original game, where the original game, it was so annoying if you realized I needed like a couple more blocks of room. And that meant rearranging the entire freaking stage, screen by screen, which is a giant pain in the butt, especially when dealing with the aforementioned semi-solid platforms, because those would get all kinds of screwed up when moving those around. So I hope that we can select any amount we want to and move them all at once. And now that we have the camera controls, where we can zoom out to some degree, I hope we can zoom out entirely and move however much we need to by selecting everything at once. And also, furthermore, between the different sub areas, because so far we know that at least you'll have the second sub area. By the way, I hope there's even more now. But I hope that we can easily copy elements and drag it to another, so we're not stuck, with our initial creation. If we decide to flip elements around later on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was always the biggest headache when creating levels. Because it was something like, I don't know, like 20 rows or something that you could select. Maybe not even that. It was so cumbersome. So they've got to fix that. That's the biggest thing. And even in Smash's Stage Builder, you can't copy and paste, and that's a headache. At least Mario Maker had that, though, right?
That's true. Now there is something in the most recent trailer I want to touch on real quick that the trailer seems to hint at first, until you take a closer look and realize it's not how it's working at all, where we see Mario go take a warp pipe into different game styles. He goes right from the Mario World style into the 3D world, I think, and then maybe back into another. I can't fully remember the exact sequence. However, if you look at how they edited it, you can see that the timer and coin counter changes, showing that it wasn't all one take. So my question to you, John, is do you think it's possible they're still teasing that element, where maybe you can't actually have different game styles within the same level?
They could be. I don't know. I think if that feature were in the game, I don't think they would edit it. I think they'll just show it. It feels weird to tease something and then actually have it in there when it's the exact same thing that you're trying to demonstrate. So, especially
because it could be. They might have done it for editing reasons, where maybe they didn't get a clean take on each of the sections. Maybe. But it's still something they could easily fudge using the editor tools they have. They can easily change those numbers to wherever they want them to. So I kind of agree with you. I do think it'd be neat if they offer that opportunity, though, because that could really give you a mixture of different gameplay styles, and allow you to tell different stories too, using different themes, like the progression of Mario, for instance. But it would introduce some interesting issues as well. Like if you go from, the Mario 3 theme with the raccoon suit, what happens when you go to the Mario World style? You just get the cape instantly, and you become a cat when you go to the 3D world. So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either, but I think it would have been neat had they.
Unless there's a new feature where all the power-ups work in every game.
God, that would be amazing. That'd be something else. Well, hey, speaking of which, they need to add the the Super Acorn from the new Super Mario Bros. U style.
Right, yeah, it was the propeller suit they had in the Mario U style in Mario Maker 1.
How weird is that? Yeah, it is. Yeah. How weird is that? Because we were like, when we were looking at this initially, we're like, wait a second, was the Acorn not in the original game? But it feels like it should be.
Right. Yeah, that's so strange.
Yeah, so I think we've covered a lot about this game so far. Are there any other elements you want to touch on, John? Whether something you're excited for or any other hopes?
I actually had one more idea. So,
okay, yes.
This is actually part about sharing levels as well. So when you take a screenshot and you share to Twitter on Switch, it says like hashtag Breath of the Wild, hashtag Nintendo Switch. Right. One thing I'd love is when you take a screenshot and you share it to Twitter, it would not only say hashtag Mario Maker, hashtag Nintendo Switch, but it would give the level code of the level that you're sharing.
Great idea. Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
love
That's a really good idea. That's kind of similar to my streamer mode idea, where it's always displaying the ID. So yeah, that'd be great. And it would be even better is if they bring back the Mario Maker website and they just give you a link to it straight up. Or give you some way to easily share these in social media. So yeah, that's really one thing that they need to improve is just sharing in general. Make that as easy as possible. The Mario Maker website was actually a great step. It was a great step in the right direction, and hopefully they keep going in that direction. Here's something else I want: more boss fights. We saw kind of a hint at this maybe with Boom Boom, but I would love them to offer even more. Whether it's Koopalings or the Resnors from Mario World, or whatever else we want to bring in, or let us treat almost maybe any character as a boss fight. Give us some kind of functionality to maybe power them up in some way, even beyond what they already are. I don't know. Give us more boss options. Even letting us treat existing bosses as bosses. We could kind of fudge it in the original game by adding the DLC key, by dragging it onto an enemy, like Bowser, for instance, and making so you only get the key after beating him. But I think they go even farther, like by giving us boss rooms, like proper boss environments.
That'd be really cool. And we have seen bigger enemies. Like in the 3D World style, there are bullies from 3D World and Mario 64. There are, what are the giant lava dragons called? The Blogars or something.
Blarg!
Yeah, Blargs. So we are seeing like bigger and more interesting enemies, but yeah, they're not really bosses. So right. I'd definitely love to see something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So, I mean, great. I mean, even though I think we've had a little bit of Koopaling overload, I think it'd be neat if they did bring them back and give them different properties like they have had in some of the games. Especially, it'd be really fun to see them in the NES style or as a Super Mario Bros. Style, and see what they do there.
True, like Bowser Jr. didn't exist in those styles beforehand, and they redid that for Mario Maker 1. So
exactly, yeah,
there's precedent.
Absolutely. I'm just looking over my list here I took of all the notes of all the new features. I'm trying to think of anything else I'm excited for. I actually am really looking forward to the new colored pipes, by the way. For one, the decorative element. I was getting really sick of just the green ones before, but also the fact that they seem to have different properties. Because as I pointed out in the analysis, and as you point out again from the recent trailer, it seems that at the very least the red ones spit out enemies quicker than the green ones do, at least based on their behavior in the original Mario Maker. And it makes me wonder what other properties all these other pipes could have, because there are multiple other colors too. Like I would love if one of them, like in Mario World, it just shoot you out, like it's super high speed. You just fire out of that, even as Mario.
Yeah, we've seen 4 pipes. There's the green one, the red one, the yellow one, and the blue one. Yeah, we know the red one's faster. I wonder if one of them's slower. The blue one's probably slower. But yeah, the yellow one, I think it'd be cool if it, as you said, if it just shot you out, because that's in New Super Mario Bros. DS. That's it's in Mario World. It's in a few 2D games. I think it's even in is it in 3D World? It might be, but yeah, it's definitely a part of 2D Mario games. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Also, multicolored Yoshis are here. At least the red ones. We have green and red confirmed, which I'm thinking means at least blue and yellow are probably here as well.
Right.
Because they were in Mario World.
Do you think the baby Yoshis are, though?
I don't. It seems like they've been treating them as very much their own thing now. Although they were in New Super Mario Bros. U, but they've been treating them very separately from the adult Yoshis. So I don't think they are, but that'd be pretty hype if they were actually.
I'd love to see them in the Super Mario Bros. 1 style. I think that should be really cool to see. And I know they probably won't be because Yoshi wasn't in the original game, but it'd be great if they were. Just have just make that style a bit more bit more fresh. That's what it needs, I think.
And by the way, I maybe it's definitely just my nostalgia. I am so excited to see Bonsai Bills here, especially in the Super Mario World style. It just takes me back to that age, like watching those commercials, seeing the giant bowl of bills shoot across the screen. Like, I love that they're now an option.
And I kind of like that they don't have a launcher too, because they didn't in Mario World. They just sort of went across the screen whenever. Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense. And it'd be a bit hard to have a giant launcher that you have to like jump over whenever. So yeah, it kind of makes sense.
But that's what they did in Super Mario Bros. U, though.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. I guess it could have worked.
But I do agree with you. I mean, maybe it's still an option. Like if you want infinite bonsai bills, maybe you have the launcher as an option to do that, or maybe you can just set them individually as well. You know, where they just create a predetermined spot you made for that one time. Yeah. I guess real quick, we kind of like glossed over it briefly. The 3D World style, I just want to return to that because this looks so fun to play with. And again, I just love the idea that they're bringing in the 3D elements into a 2D style with a cat suit, which looks like a lot of fun. It will really open up gameplay opportunities with you being able to climb up walls, slash enemies, and which we now know is a thing. With you being able to dive through the air by like pouncing. Which should be fun if there's more vertically oriented levels, like taller levels now. And again, I can't tell you how excited I am for clear pipes. Those are going to be so fun to work with. My only hope for clear pipes, which I don't think is going to have, actually two hopes, is I wish we could create ones with multiple openings, like in the original game, where they could branch off in all kinds of ways. That doesn't seem to be the case here, but we've seen a ton of them, and none of them, they all just have a single linear path with an opening either side. And also, I wish we could bury them, like hide them behind objects, so you can't see where exactly they're going.
That would be cool, yeah. I do wonder, like, we saw them drawing clear pipes, and there wasn't an opening. But I do wonder if you maybe put another clear pipe on top of that clear pipe.
Connect it, yeah.
Exactly, would that make it... Because the way green pipes work in Mario Maker 1 is you can make double-ended ones if you just put another one on top of it. So I do wonder if that would work the same way.
True, but when you did that, they didn't interact with each other. They just layered on top of one another.
Right.
So I hope so. Like I hope it's one of those features that they've been hiding from us, much as how we haven't seen the full extent of all the other objects, such as even like the Angry Sun, which by the way is here, which we haven't seen in any other theme, or either level theme or style. So yeah, it's odd. It's odd because they're both in the Japanese screenshot and the trailer. It's just the Mario 3 style, and that Angry in the
Sun
desert in the desert theme, right?
Right, exactly. Yes, it's hard to say.
Like, is it just a default element of the desert? Like, are you stuck with that sun if you play
maybe.
there? Yeah.
I don't. It was always cosmetic things that changed when you changed between themes within the same style in the first Mario Maker. Like no elements were specific to a certain template. It was always the same stuff within the game. So the Angry Sun at least has to be there for like the castle and the grass theme. But I guess it will look a bit weird in the castle, right? Like here's the castle, there's a giant sun chasing you. It would make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, I'm also trying to picture like a 3D world version. Like what's that going to look like? So I mean, part of me wonders and also the whole fact of like. Because the sun is actually very unique from an enemy perspective because it exists relative to the screen and not within the environment itself, which makes me wonder like how it's going to work. Like, yeah, I talked about this in the analysis, but how it's going to work in terms of like placing it. Like if you place it at the bottom, will then swoop upward instead in like a inverted U, if you will. So I do partially wonder if maybe it is just locked to that Mario 3 desert style or theme.
It really could be. Yeah, I think it kind of makes the most sense there, because not all level themes are open like the desert is. There's a lot of closed ones like the castle. So yeah, maybe it is. But at the same time, I don't know. It feels a bit weird to restrict it, because that's not really the point of Mario Maker.
Yep, that's true too.
Also, just speaking of the mechanics of 3D World as well, that cat dive, it looks more rewarding than ever. Because in 3D World, when you did the cat dive, there was a very small pause between the dive and
there were actually four pause, John.
Yeah, you got me there. But yeah, it's like instantaneous now though. When you dive, you just go straight down. I love that.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think 3D World looks way more fun in 2D than it does in 3D.
It totally does.
Right? It's like such a great fit. So I really am excited to see what people and what Nintendo can do with this style. Because it really looks like it kind of looks like a more acrobatic version of Mario. Like it's kind of what when Mario Run came out, I speculated how they could lift elements from that game into a proper 2D Mario game, and this kind of seems to be almost what the 3D World style is doing, where it looks like a more fluid version of Mario, where, especially with the cat suit, where it really opens up what you can do in the environment, you know, like where walls aren't really a barrier anymore, but you can climb up them. And now you can dive through the air, you can just move around in a manner of ways you couldn't before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm really ever going to use that Mario U style anymore, because 3D World just looks way better. And it makes me wonder, why hasn't a 2D Mario looked like this before? Because 3D Worlds in 2D not only looks beautiful, but it looks like a proper jump as well. It looks like the biggest jump 2D Mario's had in a long time.
This is a 2D Mario that we should have gotten all this time. Like, this is what 2D Mario... This is the true evolution of 2D Mario, I feel like. So it's fun that we're actually finally getting it. And hopefully we'll get, like, a pseudo, like, pre-built-in adventure using those elements that kind of gives an idea of what a proper 2D successor could have been like, you know.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right, well, we've been talking for a while, John, because clearly we're both stoked for this game. I really can't wait to dive in and see what else we can do with it. Both involving the elements we know about and those that we don't. But are there any final elements you want to touch on, John, before we fully wrap it up here?
Well, we've touched on a lot in this, so
I
think I might have got my thoughts out there for now. But I just want to reiterate how excited I am for this game. It's probably my most anticipated game at the moment. And the fact that it's so close and we know so little just kind of makes me more excited. And I can't wait to just sort of figure this all out for ourselves rather than it all being just given it to us beforehand.
Yeah, well, I think the hope is that we know so little. I mean, we know most of it. So, but I think there are some major features Nintendo's been hiding from us, and I really can't wait to see what all they are. Even if they're just the ones we speculate about, whether multiplayer, or cooperative level creation, or choosing multiple characters or different characters. Like, I really can't wait to see what all that means. And also, the giant question mark, again, is the online. How exactly is that going to work this time? But they haven't touched on that at all. Is it just going to be like Mario Maker 1, or is it going to go even farther? So yeah, I really am excited for this, and it really is just around the corner. It's my most hyped game. It's coming out next month. And yeah, I can't wait. Especially because, again, I think that we will be finding out more about this before E3. They're not going to wait 2 weeks before the game to blow it out. I don't think. It's Nintendo, anything's possible. But I do think we'll find out more about it quite soon. And I'll be there. I'm ready. And this game, by the way, this game is going to be huge, I think. Mario Maker already was big on a dead platform. The Switch very much is undead, and I think this is going to blow up. People are everyone's gonna be streaming it. People are gonna be wanting to play it. Like, this could be Nintendo's just major like this next major game for them, I think. So
yeah, like Mario Maker, a game that takes elements from the 90s, is Nintendo's most modern game. It's a game about making and sharing. That's as modern as you can get. It's based on the groundwork of stuff that's from decades ago. It's ingenious. And yeah, you're right. Like, it sold good on the Wii U, but relative to what the Wii U was. Look at Splatoon as well. Splatoon sold great on Wii U, and it's selling even more amazingly on the Switch. So it's gonna do great, no doubt.
One more thing, John, I just thought about that they need here, that I've said before, but I'll say it again, is their version of Miiverse. And luckily, Splatoon 2 had their own version of it, so I'm hopeful that they'll bring it back here too. Because part of what makes Mario Maker special is like the feedback you can get, where people can leave comments in the level, and as a creator or even as another player, you could see those comments within the level itself, and that was so cool to see. It was fun to see what people said about it, whether it was offering tips or feedback or whatever else. So I really hope that's a returning feature here.
Yeah, same here. I think there's no chance it won't be, to be honest. I think it was a big part of the original Mario Maker, and I don't think they would get rid of it for this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope that's the case. Alright, I think we're about done here, because we've been talking for quite a while, even if not still quite as long as my analysis, which, Jesus. So with that, thank you for watching. Of course, if you liked our discussion, make sure and like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find links to all those in the description below. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for tons more on Super Mario Maker 2, because we'll be covering this game for probably forever, and everything else Nintendo Switch as well. We'll catch you later. Bye.